Hello everybody, back again for another video. Hope you're doing well. Hope your life's going well. Hope this week has gone well for you, and I hope that today has gone well for you. Today is Saturday. It is October the 25th, 2025. It is about 7:50 a.m. Central Standard Time, and I hope that y'all are having a wonderful start to your weekend. I hope it's been a wonderful week this week, and I hope it's been a productive and a non-stressful week overall for you all. As for me, I'm doing pretty good myself. Can't complain here. I've been very busy though, and that's why I haven't really been able to upload as much as I would like, but I'm gonna try to get more consistent, but just been real busy lately. But I'm here, I'm back, and I'm definitely trying to get more consistent. But what I want to talk about in this video is this situation that is going on where Chauncey Billups, who is the current head coach of the Portland Trail Blazers, and Terry Rozier, who is a guard on the Miami Heat, have been arrested. And I'm actually going to talk about what's going on here. I actually have this pulled up here, and I'm going to read it to give y'all a little bit of background before I talk about my views on this whole situation. So it says that Chauncey Billups, current head coach of the Portland Trail Blazers and former NBA player, was charged in a federal criminal case for alleged involvement in a scheme to rig high-stakes poker games. It says the indictment states that around 2019, a group of defendants ran illegal poker games in New York City, Las Vegas, the Hamptons, and they used altered shuffling machines, x-ray tables, cards that were marked, contact lenses, etc. to cheat the players. Say Billups was basically the person that they used to essentially lure like wealthy people in to play in these poker games with the people that were involved in this scheme. It says that he's been charged with wire fraud and money laundering in connection with this scheme. It says Terry Rozier, guard with the Miami Heat, has been arrested in connection with a separate but related federal gambling investigation. In his case, the allegations revolve around insider information and sports betting. It says that prosecutors say that in a 2023 game, when Rozier was with the Charlotte Hornets, there were unusual betting patterns, and that Rozier allegedly communicated that he would exit early due to injury, which aided bettors. Let's see. It says that wow. I think I remember hearing about that earlier. I don't know. But it's very unfortunate that this has happened. And again, these are still allegations. And so, we still have to wait until all the facts come out. It's a developing story, but if this stuff is true, I really would not understand why these guys would feel the need to do this with all the millions of dollars that they make. I read somewhere that Terry Rozier's career earnings were, I think they said $135 million he's earned over his NBA career. I don't know if that number includes or doesn't include endorsements either. So if it doesn't include endorsements, he's probably made even more millions than that. And the same thing with Chauncey Billups. He's made millions and millions and billions of dollars over his playing and coaching career. And so it's like, if these allegations are true, again, they're allegations, I just wouldn't understand, right? The only things I could think of is, maybe the mentality comes in where it's just never enough money, right? Some people, maybe they're never satisfied with the amount of money that they have, right? You just want more and more and more. Maybe it's that sort of mental thing, or maybe it's a situation where, maybe they want to keep up with a certain lifestyle, right? You make millions and millions of dollars a year, you spend millions and millions of dollars a year. So it could be something along those lines. I mean, who knows the real reason? But I actually did see a news report that they were denying wrongdoing in this case. So we'll definitely have to see what plays out with this. But I think that it's very interesting that this has happened, but we have to look at the fact that the NBA, the NFL, all these sports leagues, you cannot turn on a sports game nowadays and not see some sort of commercial from DraftKings, FanDuel. You throw in Prize Picks, even though I've probably seen more online advertisements for like Prize Picks, endorsements from like YouTubers and stuff like that. But yeah, those are the main three that I've seen. And then I've seen ESPN has their own sports book. So just a lot, just a pretty huge prevalence of basically gambling, right? I think Robinhood has one too. The prediction markets, which technically speaking, it's not gambling, but I mean, come on, if you understand how the prediction markets work, right? One could argue it's basically gambling, even though it's technically not gambling, right? And so it's very interesting, very ironic that something like this would happen when they do nothing but push gambling on the masses. And just so you all know, you're not going to make a lot of money from sports betting. You're just not. I've heard multiple instances where when people actually make a little too much money from these like sports betting apps and all that, they start limiting the amount you can play and limiting the amount that you can win and all that. They start acting funny when you actually win a little too much money. This is just what I've heard. So they're really not even designed for you to win huge amounts of money like that, right? But you can lose all day. You can stay losing. They don't care, right? The apps are making money. The sports betting apps are making money. So you can lose all day, but you start winning too much money and they gotta keep paying out over and over and over. Yeah. I mean, I don't sports bet, so I'm not 100% certain that this does happen, but it wouldn't be surprising. These reports where these sports betting apps, they'll basically throttle you, limit your plays or limit the amount that you can win and stuff like that. I wouldn't be surprised, right? And this is a serious problem. There's whole groups out here that are dedicated to helping people with gambling addiction, because people, they get into this sports betting and gambling and stuff in general, and they just can't stop. They keep chasing that high. They keep thinking, okay, if I just play one more time, I can make all my money back that I lost. Because, what happens is you win a few times, you might win some money, and psychologically, you don't know when to stop. So you just start placing bigger and bigger bets, and all of a sudden, guess what? You just lost all that money that you won, and then you feel really bad, and then you place a bigger bet to try to make back what you lost. And guess what? You just lost more. So now you're digging a hole for yourself. You try to play again, you try to place an even bigger bet. Guess what? You just lost even more money, right? And it's just a terrible situation. There have been so many situations out there where people have lost their whole retirement savings from doing gambling and betting and all this type of stuff. And they sit there and promote it like it's nothing. They promote it like it's nothing. And how ironic, you got two people. I think it was another former player that they say was involved with this, all arrested for and it's a bad situation. I think that the NBA, I think the NFL, the MLB, all these leagues need to look into what is being pushed in their leagues, right? Because it's really hurting people financially out here. And I definitely understand the individual responsibility part. We all have a choice as to whether we choose to gamble or not. And then we have access to information too. So with just a little bit of research, we know that no one's really gonna make lots and lots of money sports betting. I mean, of course, you're gonna have a few outlier stories. You might find a few outlier stories, but for the vast majority of people, they're not making money. As a matter of fact, they're more than likely losing money, and they continue to play so that they can try to win back the money that they lost, instead of just pretty much accepting the loss. Bad situation to be in. It really is. And I wish they hadn't gone down this route of promoting like sports betting and stuff like that. And there's all types of other websites too that you can sports bet on and gamble on. It's just, even Robinhood. They have the sports prediction markets. It's technically not gambling, but in my eyes, it's still basically a form of gambling, right? If you guess this right, you're going to make this amount of money. If you guess this wrong, you're going to lose this amount of money, right? And with the prediction markets, they're basically derivative contracts. So what happens is you buy a contract, right? Say the contract is worth 50 cents. What you would do is you would shoot, here's a better way of explaining it. Say I believe that the Houston Texans will win on Sunday, right? Will the Houston Texans win on Sunday? They're going to have a contract price for yes, and they're going to have a contract price for no. And I believe it's based on the odds. It's going to range in price from 1 cent to 99 cents each one, the yes and the no. They're going to normally have two different prices based on the odds. So there might be a contract for yes that is 75 cents. Contract for no that's like 25 cents. And say the Texans do win, the value of that $75 contract, 75-cent contract goes up to $1. The value of that 25-cent contract for no goes to zero automatically. And that's kind of how the prediction market thing works. So if you guess the right thing, you win money. If you guess wrong, you lose. And that's kind of how it is with these sports betting apps. They're not exactly like that, but they're pretty much along those lines. You have to guess correctly or you'll lose money. So yeah, I really wish all this stuff wasn't pushed on the masses like that, right? There should be a lot more regulation, and I believe that if they really cared, they would have outlawed all this stuff, really. But I guess when money, influence, and power takes over the government, anything goes. So that's the unfortunate reality. People in power, people in government are influenced by money. Because for the longest time, this type of stuff was banned up until like 2018, I believe. And this new law came into place, and it opened the door for all these different sports betting apps and gambling and all that type of stuff. So yeah, anyway, I think that's about it for this video. This is just something I wanted to talk about because it really is a serious problem, and I wish it was talked about more. I really do. I don't believe it's talked about enough. We're at the point where we have whole groups, anonymous groups that are dedicated to helping people with gambling addiction. It's a serious problem. It should be talked about just as much as any other addiction. So Anyway, that's all I have for this video. We're at the 20-minute mark. I really do hope that you enjoyed this video. Hope that you're relaxed, and I really do hope that you stay tuned for more videos.